I grew up at 9415 Murray Road, Valley View, Ohio, 44125. Murray and Fosdick were two streets joined by a small street called Tiny Lane, fitting just south of Cleveland, Ohio, about 10-15 minutes south of Cleveland. Actually, almost directly underneath the 480 bridge. Maybe 80 houses down there. Everybody has got some kind of bizarre disease. It's basically Aaron Brockovich in the 2000s. At the base of this old landfill is where I grew up. We had well water. And we had gardens and fruit trees. But in the summer, we would get this horrible smell. And if you're not familiar with thermals, basic science, heat rises, cool falls. In the summertime, as the sun would set, the temperature would fall, and this aroma would come down the hill, and it was a sweet, nasty smell. So, on a nanoparticle level, we were breathing in all these toxic particles from this landfill that has been shut down for years. But if you think about Cleveland, Ohio, 50-some years ago, it was an industrial hub, and actually, C Magazine did a story on where I grew up, actually looking for me. His name was Jared Klaus. The title of the C Magazine is called A Tomb with a View. It's a 4-page article, and I'm the main character in that 4-page spread. And how he found me was his girlfriend at the time worked up at the now mall strip center that sits on top of this old landfill, and they actually put piping to vent the methane gas up through the buildings and out into the atmosphere. And the brilliant brain trusts of Garfield Heights, where that's at, were actually contemplating, when it first opened up, having their fireworks display there. That would have been the biggest fireworks show they've ever seen, because that methane would have exploded that whole hillside off. Nonetheless, 50 years ago, Cleveland was this industrial hub, and I could remember as a kid, because we certainly didn't have air conditioning, and we were lucky if the screens in the windows were even there, let alone whole. So I heard it was like an amphitheater down, and I could hear trucks dumping at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And who dumps at those hours? And I mean, the EPA found the levels of PVC, polyvinyl chloride, that were off the charts. And PVC, the two major cancers that it causes is brain and liver. My mom died of liver cancer, and I've currently got brain cancer, a very rare form of brain cancer called primary CNS lymphoma. So what happened was this Jared's girlfriend worked up at a pet supply place up there, and she was sick every day, headaches, and I guess some animals were dying up there, and she's just, because he was a reporter for the C Magazine, he's in college, and she asked him to investigate it. Well, he came up there and looked over the hill and could see these two streets down there, so he goes down there. And my dad at the time, who was alive, but was a complete drunk, was on the front porch smoking a cigarette. and Jared goes up the driveway and says, "Excuse me, can I ask you questions? Anybody sick around here?" And my dad said, "You can knock on any one of these doors and somebody's sick." And Jared asked my dad, "Do you have any personal experience?" And he said, "I lost my wife to liver and colon cancer in '01, and my son is an Independence cop, and he's got brain cancer right now. You can go talk to me if you want." So, because I didn't talk to my dad. Nonetheless, he gets a hold of me and does an interview, and he interviewed the neighborhood people, and it really got a lot of steam. So I hired a lawyer, and he said these are some of the highest numbers I've ever seen. And he went back to Philadelphia. Now, so what was really bizarre was Valley View is on the western border of this landfill, and Garfield Heights is the majority of the landfill and the eastern border of it. And we never really interacted with the Garfield people, and all them people up there on the east border of the landfill, all too have diseases, cancer, died left and right. And so I was married at one point, and my ex-wife, she was pregnant twice and lost both the kids, and probably a blessing in disguise, because the kids I grew up with that are all having kids, all their kids, not all, but a lot of their kids have these oddball diseases that they trace back to that particular parent due to the DNA testing. So probably a good idea that I don't have any kids. It's a regret of mine, but that's why I coach. I coach baseball. I used to coach baseball. I coached all wrestling, youth, middle school, and high school. And I'm currently going through treatment right now, so that's not going to happen. So if you want to look up a story, Aaron Brockovich, it's called A Tomb with a View. And then the guy goes back to Philadelphia, and he never returned my phone calls or my emails. And I got pissed and said, screw it. Well, then about a year later, the article came up through the feed in Facebook, and it had been, so that article came out in, I think, '06. And in 2016, it resurfaced again. And the Facebook members that were commenting on it wanted a 10-year follow-up to see if Jason Berger's still alive. And I am. But I never got contacted, so yeah. And actually, I'm trying to get the story out there, so we'll see what happens.